Story 1. My grandma's basement door shouldn't be opening. Alone, you ever have that one house from your childhood that just stuck with you? Not because it was beautiful or cozy, but because something about it felt off for me. That house was my grandma's place in rural Ohio. And no matter how many times I tell myself it was just old wood and bad wiring, I still can't explain what happened with that basement door. Because that door shouldn't have been opening on its own. I was 12 the first time I noticed it. It was the summer of 2008, and my parents had shipped me off to Grandma's for 2 weeks while they reconnected. You know what that means. Her house sat at the end of a long gravel road, surrounded by cornfields, the kind of place where if you screamed, nobody would hear you unless the wind was right. It wasn't a creepy house at first glance, yellow paint peeling a little, a big oak tree in the yard with a swing I used to love. But once you stepped inside, it was quiet to quiet. No humming fridge, no creaking pipes, just silence, except for the occasional click of the basement door latched the first night. I was sitting on the couch watching cartoons when I heard it. Click. I looked over toward the kitchen hand. There it was. The basement door. It was slowly easing open, inch by inch, until I could see pure black behind it. Grandma, I called out. She was in her recliner, half asleep, with a crossword on her lap. She didn't even flinch. The door finally stopped moving when it was open about 6 inches. I walked over, heart pounding, and closed it. It made this thunk sound as the latch caught. Then I gave it a little tug, solid. Okay, maybe the house was uneven or something. I went back to the couch, and not even a minute later, click the sound of that latch again. This time I froze. The door creaked open again, same pace, same angle, like something was repeating the motion. Grandma, I said, louder. The basement door just opened. She mumbled something like, "Oh, it does that sometime. Don't worry about it." That answer didn't help. She said it so casually, like a basement door opening itself was just a normal Tuesday thing. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I asked her about it while she was making pancakes. Grandma, how come your basement door keeps opening? She didn't look at me right away. She just flipped a pancake real slow, then said, "Your grandpa built that basement himself back in '62. The door's always been funny since he died." I blinked. Since he died? I think he just likes to come upstairs sometimes. She smiled when she said it. But it wasn't the kind of smile you feel comfortable with. It was too thin, too practiced doll. Now my grandpa had died before I was born. All I knew was that he'd fallen down those basement steps and broke his neck, so yeah. That didn't exactly make me feel better that night. I went to bed with my door cracked open, and that's when I heard it again. Dot, click, then dash, Cree, E-A-K, dot. I could tell it wasn't just the wind, because the air pressure in the house would change. Like the whole place was holding its breath. I pulled the blanket over my head and tried not to breathe too loud. Then I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the basement. I swear I heard the sound of boots on the wooden steps, and then thud across the kitchen floor. They stopped right outside my bedroom door, and then nothing. I waited there, silent, for what felt like hours. Eventually, I passed out. When I woke up, the door was wide open. The next morning, I told Grandma what I'd heard. She just said, "You must have been dreaming, honey. Nobody's been down there since your grandpa." But I knew I heard someone walking. And that day, I made up my mind I was gonna see what was down there after lunch. When she went out to check the mail, I snuck over to the basement door. I opened it. The smell hit me first. Damp earth and rust, with a faint chemical scent underneath. The stairs were old wood, uneven, covered in dust. There was a single pull chain light hanging halfway down. I grabbed the railing and started down, one careful step at a time. When I reached the bottom, I pulled the chain. The light flickered on. The basement was bigger than I expected. Concrete walls, a workbench, old boxes, and on the far side something covered with a tarp. I walked closer, and that's when I heard breathing. It wasn't mine. It was heavy, raspy, like someone trying not to cough. I froze. The sound came from under the tarp. My hands were shaking, but I pulled the corner up anyway. And underneath there was a mannequin, life-sized, wearing a flannel shirt, jeans, and a pair of old brown work boots. It looked exactly like the photos I'd seen of Grandpa, except someone had painted eyes on it open wide. Staring straight ahead, I screamed and ran back up the stairs. Grandma was standing at the top, holding a basket of laundry like she'd been waiting. "What were you doing down there?" she asked quietly. I tried to answer, but my voice was gone. Her face changed, something dark passed over it. Then she sighed and said, "He doesn't like being disturbed." And she closed the basement door behind me. That night, I didn't sleep at all. Around 2 a.m., I heard the latch again. Click, then eak. I sat up, heart pounding. This time, I decided to see what would happen if I didn't move. I could hear the steps again, slow, dragging, up from the basement. I stared at my doorway, and then I saw a shadow, tall, broad shoulders, a man's outline. It stood there for a second, and then started walking toward me. The air turned freezing cold. Every instinct told me to run, but my body wouldn't listen. Then it stopped at the edge of my bed, and I swear something touched my foot. It was cold, dry, like skin left too long in the ground. That broke me. I screamed. Grandma burst in with a flashlight, yelling, "What's wrong with you?" But when she looked round, there was nothing. The door was closed. The house was silent again. The next morning, I demanded to go home. I told her I didn't care if my parents weren't ready. I wanted out. She just nodded like she'd been expecting it. And as we packed, she said softly, "You shouldn't have gone down there. Some doors stay shut for a reason." I left and never went back. Years later, after Grandma passed, the house was sold to some guy who planned to flip it. I was 27 by then. I'd almost convinced myself the whole thing was in my head. But then I got a call from a number I didn't It was the new owner. He said he'd found my name on some old mail in the attic. He sounded nervous, he said. Weird question. But did something happen in this house? Basement door keeps opening on its own. And there's this mannequin down there that kinda looks like you. I hung up. I've changed my number since. But sometimes, at night, when I'm alone, I hear that same click, and I swear, it sounds like the latch on Grandma's basement door. Moral: some doors don't open by accident. Sometimes, they're just waiting for someone to remember them. Bye story to you. Ever drive through some small town at night and spot something glowing way off the road? Like a carnival that shouldn't even be there. Bright lights spinning in the dark. Music echoing through the trees. But when you ask the locals about it, they just stare at you like you said a curse word. Yeah, that's how it started for me. My name's Ethan Miles, and in the summer of 2014, I stumbled into something I can't explain. A carnival that only appears once every 10 years. And if you ever see it, for the love of God, don't go in. I was 24 back then, freshly single, broke, and driving cross-country in a beat-up Chevy Impala that guzzled oil like soda. I was headed from Chicago to visit an old buddy in rural West Virginia. One of those drives that makes you question every life choice you've ever made. It was past midnight when I passed through a little town called Riverview. Population, maybe gas station, church, diner, and a single traffic light blinking yellow like it was tired. I was planning to crash in my car near the river when I saw it, off to the left, past a patch of trees, bright lights, a Ferris wheel turning slow against the night sky, music playing faintly, an old-timey calliope tune, a carnival out here in the middle of nowhere. I slowed down, thinking maybe I was hallucinating from lack of sleep, but no, there it was. I could see people walking around a popcorn stand, the red and white striped tents glowing like lanterns. I actually laughed. It looked like something out of the 1950s, pure nostalgia. So I pulled over. I figured, why not? Maybe I'll grab a funnel cake, stretch my legs. When I parked, I noticed something weird. No other cars. The lot was empty, except for mine. I walked through the entrance, under a faded wooden arch that read, "Welcome to Galloway's Traveling Carnival of Wonders." The air smelled sweet like cotton candy, and underneath it, something metallic, almost like blood. The place wasn't packed, but there were people. Kids laughing, couples holding hands, vendors shouting for customers. But something about them felt old-fashioned. Their clothes looked decades out of date. Men in suspenders and hats. Women in floral dresses that went down to their calves. I figured it was some kind of vintage theme. I bought a ticket from a booth where a guy in a bowler hat grinned at me. His skin was pale like paper, and his eyes had this cloudy look like cataracts. "Welcome, son," he said. "Been a long time since we've had a new face." "Thanks," I said, handing him a 20. He slipped it into the drawer without even checking, and gave me a paper ticket that felt oddly damp. "Enjoy the show," he said. Then, almost to himself, "Hope you make it home." That line stuck in my head. Hope you make it home. I wandered the carnival for about 20 minutes. It was lively, but the longer I stayed, the stranger it felt. The rides moved, but I never saw anyone operating them. The music never stopped, but there wasn't a band or speaker in sight. And every person I tried to talk to would just smile blankly and walk away. I wasn't really there at one point. I bought cotton candy from an old woman with lipstick smeared across her teeth. When I handed her cash, she looked down at my wrist and said, "You still have color." I didn't know what the hell that meant. I found myself drawn toward the House of Mirrors. A big, cracked glass structure with flickering lights and a sign that said, "See yourself as you truly are." Yeah, okay, I thought, creepy. But I'm here for the full experience. Inside, it was dead silent. No carnival sounds. No music, just the hum of fluorescent lights. The mirrors were warped, dusty, some cracked. My reflection stretched and shrunk as I walked through. And for a minute, I even laughed at how stupid it was. Then one of the reflections didn't move. I stopped, looked back. My reflection was staring right at me, but it wasn't copying my movement. It tilted its head slowly, and then it smiled. That smile wasn't mine. It was wide, unnatural, like the skin around its mouth was about to split. I backed up, and the reflection took a step forward. The glass fogged slightly, and I swear to God I saw breath on the other side. I bolted out of there, heart pounding, and nearly ran straight into the bowler hat guy again. "Careful, son," he said, steadying me. "The mirrors like to play tricks. What the hell is this place?" I demanded. He just looked at me for a long moment before saying, "You shouldn't have come after midnight. It's not for your kind, then. My kind." I asked. He smiled, still breathing. I was officially done. I turned toward the parking lot, except when I got back to the entrance. The wooden arch was gone, just gone. In its place was a long, empty dirt path that faded into the cornfield. I felt panic creeping up. The music started again. Louder this time, like a warped record. I started running, trying to find my car. But every direction led me back to the same Ferris wheel. No matter where I went, I ended up there. I could see people riding it now, but none of them moved. They just sat perfectly still, their heads tilted toward the sky. Then I noticed something. Each person on the ride was gray. Their skin color was faded, almost colorless, like dust. And their faces, they all looked familiar. I walked closer, and my stomach dropped. They were the same people I'd seen earlier. The popcorn vendor, the cotton candy lady, even the kids. All frozen, lifeless. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned round and saw myself, or something that looked like me. It had my clothes, my face, my hair, but its eyes were completely black dot. It smiled that same wide, wrong smile I'd seen in the mirror. Then it said in my voice, "You're late, Ethan." I stumbled back. "What do you want?" I yelled. It laughed softly. "It's not about what I want. It's about balance. One stays, one leaves." Before I could react, it lunged forward and grabbed my wrist. I felt burning, like my skin was being branded. When I looked down, there was a mark on my arm. A small carnival symbol burned into my flesh. Everything started spinning. The lights went white, the air screamed, and I passed out. When I woke up, I was back in my car. Morning sunlight was streaming through the windshield. The carnival, gone. Just an empty field. No tents, no Ferris wheel, no people. For a second, I thought maybe I'd dreamt the whole thing, till I looked at my wrist. The mark was still there. I drove into Riverview and stopped at the diner. When I mentioned the carnival to the waitress, she froze. Her hand shook, spilling coffee onto the counter. "Where'd you say you saw it?" she asked. "Off County Road 19. I said. "Last night." Her face went pale. "Son," she whispered, "the Galloway Carnival burned down in 1964. Killed everyone inside. They say it comes back every 10 years, looking for someone new." I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh. But she didn't. She just whispered, "You made it out. Most don't." That night, when I checked into a cheap motel outside town, I decided to shower. When I stepped out and wiped the steam off the mirror, there were two reflections staring back at me. One of them smiled, and it wasn't me. I left Riverview the next morning and never went back. But last week, 10 years later, I got a flyer in the mail. No return address, it said. Galloway's Traveling Carnival returns. One night only. The date, tomorrow. And in the corner, written in faint red ink, was a single sentence. "Your turn to collect, Ethan. Moral. If you ever see a carnival glowing in the distance, don't stop, don't look, just keep driving. Because some attractions don't open for fun. They open for souls." Story 3 title: Don't ever use the bathroom at mile marker 45. You ever drive long distances late at night. Like that stretch of highway that feels like it's looping on itself. Same trees, same gas stations, same nothing for miles. That's where this story happens. Highway 84, somewhere between Amarillo and Santa Fe. And if you've ever taken that route, you've probably seen the little green sign that says mile marker 45. If you ever find yourself out there past midnight, keep driving. Whatever you do, don't stop. And if you have to stop, don't use the bathroom. It was late last August when this happened. I was moving from Dallas to Flagstaff. New job, new start. I had my whole life packed into a dented gray Honda Civic and a playlist I'd made for the drive. Around 1 a.m., I realized I was running low on gas. The highway was empty, no towns, no exits, just black fields stretching forever. I'd passed a sign that said rest area 2 miles. I figured I'd stop there, stretch my legs, maybe use the restroom. That's when I saw it, mile marker 45. The rest area came right after. Just a narrow turnout with 2 vending machines, a flickering light, and a small brick building labeled restrooms. It looked abandoned. No cars, no trucks, just the hum of that buzzing light cutting through the quiet. I pulled in anyway. My bladder wasn't giving me a choice. I grabbed my phone and keys just habitant, stepped out. The air smelled dry, like dust and something faintly metallic. There was no wind, no sound except my shoes crunching gravel. Inside, the restroom was worse. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, and one of the stalls looked like it hadn't been cleaned in years. The air was damp and warm, like something breathing just out of sight. I took the last stall, locked the door, and that's when I heard it. A cough. From the stall next to mine. It wasn't a polite cough, it was a ragged, wet sound, like someone clearing blood out of their throat. I froze. I hadn't seen any other cars outside. No sound of footsteps coming in. Just that cough, then a whisper. Right next to me, low and scratchy. You came back. Every instinct in me screamed to leave. I didn't respond. I didn't move. I just waited, listening to my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. The air grew heavier, like the humidity itself was pressing down on me. Then, the stall door beside me creaked, slow, grinding hinges. Footsteps shuffled closer to the divider between us, and then something pressed against the metal partition. At first, I thought it was a hand, but the outline wasn't right too long. The fingers thin and jointed like broken twigs. It dragged down the metal with a sound that made my teeth ache. SCCCC RAAAAAPE. That single quotes, a notification, just enough light to catch the reflection of something standing halfway beneath the store door next to mine. Bare feet. But the skin wasn't right. It was pale gray, stretched too tight. Veins black and pulsing. I didn't even flush. I just bolted. I remember the door almost coming off its hinges as I hit it. Ran straight to my car, slammed it in reverse, and sped out so fast my tires screeched. I didn't look back. Not until I was half a mile down the road. That's when I saw it in my rear view. Mirror. A figure standing under the rest area light, not moving, just staring. And even from that distance, I could tell its face wasn't right. Like it wasn't a face at all. Just a smooth, gray blur where eyes and a mouth should have been. I drove until I hit the next gas station, an old Texaco, off Route 84. The clerk, an older guy with a name tag that said Ray, gave me this strange look as I stumbled in, still shaking. He said, "You look like you saw a ghost." I told him what happened. The coughing, the voice, the thing in the store. Ray got real quiet. Then he asked, "You stopped by mile marker 45, didn't you?" When I nodded, his face went pale. He told me people go missing there. Truckers, travelers, kids from the university driving home on breaks. Every few years, someone stops to use the bathroom and they just don't come back. State troopers check it sometimes, but they never find anything. Just abandoned cars, and once, years ago, they did find something. Ray leaned over the counter and lowered his voice. They said there was this woman long time back, broke down near that rest stop, walked to the bathroom to wait for help. When her husband came back, all he found was her purse on the sink. Bend a lot of it, he said. After that, they shut it down for a while, but folks kept using it anyway. Then the stories started. People hearing voices calling their name from inside, seeing their own reflection moving wrong in the mirror, smelling that same metallic, rotten smell before something cold touches them. He told me, if you ever drive that stretch again, son, don't stop, even if you have to piss in a bottle. Don't stop. I didn't plan on ever going back that way, but life had other ideas. 2 months later, I was heading back to Texas to visit my mum. And, of course, my GPS routed me right through Highway 84. I told myself I'd be fine. It was daytime, clear skies, nothing to worry about. But as I passed mile marker 45, my phone glitched. The GPS froze. Music cut out. Then I heard it. Back off from my back seat. I nearly swerved off the road. When I glanced in the mirror, there was no one there, just my own reflection staring back at me. Eyes wide, chest pounding. I laughed it off, told myself it was just nerves. But a few miles later, I noticed something else. The air vent on the passenger side was blowing cold, freezing cold even, though the AC was off. Then the smell hit me. That same metallic temps, faint but unmistakable, like blood dot. And when I looked in the rearview mirror again, I saw a handprint on the inside of the back window. A long, gray handprint, still wet. By the time I got to Amarillo, I was a wreck. I parked under the lights at a crowded truck stop and didn't move for hours. The next morning, the handprint was gone. I tried to convince myself I'd imagined the whole thing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me that night. In the motel, I dreamed I was back in that restaurant. The lights flickering, the same smell. Only this time, when I looked under the store, there were dozens of bare feet, all facing my direction. When I woke up, my sheets were damp cold sweat, fly, until I saw the floor, footprints, wet. Gray footprints leading from the bathroom door to the side of the bed, and they stopped right next to where I was sleeping. I left the motel that morning and drove straight to Dallas. No stops, no food, just miles of panic. For a while, things went back to normal. No more sounds, no more handprints, until last week. I was at a gas station near my apartment, standing at the urinal when the lights flickered, and behind me, ragged breathing, that same cough. I turned around, no one was there, but on the mirror above the sink, written in condensation, were 3 words: "You came back." I don't know what it wants. Maybe it's not about the bathroom itself. Maybe it's about whoever sees it, whoever stops there. Like once you've gone in, it knows you, finds you, follows you. If you're hearing this, maybe it's already too late for me. I don't sleep anymore. The air in my apartment smells like rust. The faucets turn on by themselves at night, and every time I close my eyes, I hear that whisper, "You came back." I tried burning the clothes I wore that night. I moved apartments. I even sold my car. But sometimes, when I walk past a public restroom, I feel it. That same thick air, that same silence right before something breathes behind you. And I swear if I catch my reflection for too long, it smiles, even when I don't. So if you ever find yourself driving down Highway 84, and you see a little green sign that says mile marker 45, keep driving, dot. No matter how bad you've got to go, no matter how tired you are, don't stop, because whatever's waiting there doesn't stay there anymore. It follows the ones who do, and when it whispers your name from the next, stall over whatever you do, don't answer. Story for I don't know how to start this without sounding completely insane, but I guess that's how most horror stories begin, right? So, let me just say this straight. I saw myself. In the background are of photographs that were taken years before I was even born. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Buy and trust me, I've gone back and forth 100 times, wondering if maybe I'm losing it, if I'm seeing things that aren't there. But these photos don't lie, and I don't think I'm supposed to tell anyone about them. It started a few months ago, after my grandmother passed away. My mum asked me to help clean out her old house in Dayton, Ohio. She was one of those grandmothers who never threw anything away, boxes stacked in the basement, drawers packed with letters, newspapers yellowed and crumbling with age. I wasn't particularly close to her. She was strange. The kind of woman who always seemed like she was keeping a secret. You know, the type staring just a little too long, pausing mid-sentence like she forgot something, or whispering prayers under her breath when she thought no one was listening. Anyway, we were sorting through her attic when I found a trunk, old, wooden, with iron hinges so rusted I almost had to break them just to pry it open. Inside, it was packed with photographs, hundreds of them, black and white portraits, faded Polaroids, postcards with smiling families frozen in time. At first, I thought it was just interesting family history, but then I noticed something in one of the oldest photographs VA bin from the 1950s, saw a group of people standing in front of a diner. Men in suspenders, women in floral dresses, kids with those wide smiles like they'd never known fear. But in the back, way in the corner, barely visible in the blur, there was someone standing alone. It was me, not just someone who looked like me, not a distant cousin, not some coincidental resemblance. It was me. Same haircut I had in high school, same mole under my left eye, same expression I'd seen in the mirror 1,000 times. I actually laughed at first. I mean, how could I not? The idea was ridiculous. I chalked it up to coincidence, shoved the photo aside, and kept digging. But then I found another one, and another, and another. Different decades, different places, crowds of people in city streets, parks, schools, always in the background, always slightly blurred, always watching, and every single time it was me. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, doppelganger, trust me, I thought about that too. I Googled Apparently, everyone's got a look-alike somewhere in the world. But this wasn't just some stranger who happened to look like me. No, these weren't people living their own lives, caught by accident in someone else's snapshot. In every photo, the me in the background was staring directly into the camera. Every single one. Like I knew the picture was being taken. And that wasn't even the worst part. The more I looked at them, the more I realized I was getting closer. In the earliest photos, I was way in the back, just a shadow in the distance. But as the years went by, the me in the photos got nearer to the main subject. First in the crowd, then a few feet behind, then standing almost right next to them. And in the last photograph I found, taken just 5 years ago, I was standing front and center, smiling, like I belonged there. I didn't tell my mum. What was I supposed to say? Hey, look, Mum, you've apparently been haunting our family photos for 70 years. She'd think I was screwing around, or worse, losing my mind. So I kept quiet, but the images stuck with me. I couldn't stop thinking about them. I took a few of the photos home, telling myself I just wanted to study them, maybe compare the faces, prove to myself that it wasn't really me. But late at night, sitting at my desk with the lamp casting long shadows, I'd stare at the photos until my eyes burned. And the longer I stared, the more wrong it all felt. Because I don't remember being there. I mean, obviously. How could I? Half of these pictures were taken decades before I was born. But there was this gnawing feeling deep in my gut, like some part of me did remember. Like a dream you can't quite recall. But you wake up knowing it happened. And sometimes gone. I hate admitting this. I felt like the me in the photo was looking at me, not at the camera, at me. A week later, I started having dreams, always the same place, an empty diner. Be kind, with red leather booths and a jukebox in the corner. I'd be sitting there alone, and someone would slide into the seat across from me. It was me, same clothes I was wearing when I went to bed, same tired expression, same everything. But he never spoke. He would just sit there, smiling faintly, tapping his fingers on the table, staring like he was waiting for me to say something first. I always woke up before I could. I know what you're probably thinking. Stress, grief, imagination, running wild. Believe me, I told myself the same thing. But then things started happening in real life. I caught glimpses of myself where I shouldn't be. Walking past the library when I was driving home from work. Standing across the street while I was out for groceries. Always just far enough away that I couldn't be sure. But I swear it was me, and every time he was staring. The breaking point came last week. I was in my apartment, scrolling through my phone before bed, when I got a text message from an unknown number. No words, just a picture. It was me, standing outside my apartment building, smiling. I didn't sleep that night. Hell, I'm not sure I've slept since. I've been jumping at every shadow, checking over my shoulder constantly, locking and relocking my doors. And here's the thing, I thought I was being paranoid. But last night, I found something that makes me realize this isn't just in my head. I dug out the last photo, again the one where I was standing front and center, and I noticed something I'd missed before. The people around me in the photo. They weren't strangers. They were my neighbors. The guy from the 3rd floor. The couple who always fights in the hallway. Even the old woman who walks her dog at 5 a.m. That photo was taken here, B, in front of my building, 5 years ago, before I even moved in. And now I'm scared to check the newest photos. My mom said she found while packing up the rest of my grandma's things. Because what if I'm in those two? What if in the next one I'm not in the background anymore? What if I'm the one